Good morning, everyone. It is bright and early, and I mean it is early. Yeah, I only got up about 5 minutes ago. This is my very first cup of coffee, and I had to kind of get ready a little bit earlier today because, yeah, we went to get our car inspected yesterday and it didn't pass. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let my dogs in. And yeah, they're at the door. They're waiting in anticipation of their breakfast. And yeah, I'll talk to you about that, what happened, and all those fun and not so fun things. And yeah, hope you want to stick around. And I will talk to you just momentarily. You see these two pups? They are in anticipation of breakfast, of treats and breakfast. Well, maybe the one is, maybe the one isn't. But yeah, it's their breakfast time. And for their breakfast, they get a quarter of a cup of raw goat's milk in with their food. And a quarter of a cup of fermented fish stock that smells exactly like fermented fish stock, if you have any imagination at all. The next thing we're going to do is they are going to get a quarter of a cup of their daily green juju. Yeah, it's just greens is what it says. But just about, a little less than a quarter of a cup. Give that a little stir because they don't like to eat the greens in a clump. And I have two excited dogs. Yeah, I'd say that they were pretty happy dogs. Do you see that tiny little crack right there in the middle of your screen? Yeah. It is not in the line of vision, and according to Pennsylvania Department of Transportation laws, a crack under a certain amount and not in the center of your vision is perfectly legal. And they passed this for inspection last year. But this year, even though it's exactly the same, they said no. Which was probably a good thing, because then when we came home, Rick called the insurance, and yeah, it's not going to cost us a dime, no deductible, nothing. They're sending out a company to see if they can fill it. And if they can't fill it, then they'll come back in a couple days, and I guess they will replace the windshield. But anyways, that's what's going around. What is wrong with my mouth today? I don't know. You don't know how many times that I had to stop and redo parts of this video this morning because my mouth, it must just be too early. But anyways, yeah, that's what's going on around here. And my husband just messaged me and said I'm on my way home because, yeah, I really don't like to handle these kind of things. Not to mention that even though you see me dressed, the bottom half of me is still in pajamas. Anyways, I'll talk to all of you, yeah, in just a little while. I just wanted to bring you back and let you know that it is now, let me look at the clock to make absolutely certain, yeah, it is 12:40 in the afternoon, and the people who were supposed to come this morning to fix our windshield have not come. But she did call, and she said that she was running behind, that she didn't think she could get here for at least another hour. So my whole day has kind of been blown, you know. I wanted to make what's called sweet onion relish that was in this naturally sweet foods and jars. But it takes what's called spiced raisin concentrate. And that is a concentrate that, well, yeah, as the name says, it takes raisins. I didn't have any raisins, so I thought I would have time to run to the store, get some raisins, make this concentrate, and then be able to do this canning with all you folks. But yeah, it's not happening today. So anyway, sorry about that. But we will do this next week, and it sounds really good. And the other thing, though, that I wanted to show you is, yeah, God blessed my beans. Come and take a look. Isn't it amazing what one day with just a few hours of sunshine can do for your plants, especially bean plants? Yeah, this one actually has 2 of them growing in it, and this has doubled its size in just in one day's sunshine. And this has gotten a lot bigger, and the one that I showed you that nothing was coming up, there it is, a little tiny bean sprout starting to come up. And I also had sown some beans directly into my garden, and now I have 2 of those also coming up. Now, I realize it's only 7 plants out of all of the beans that I had, sown. And hey, it is what it is. I'm happy that God has given me these 7. And I'll talk to all of you in just a little while. Today's devotion is on the parable of the Pharisees and the tax collector, found in Luke 18, verses 9 through 14. He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. 2 men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. In this parable, Christ is speaking to those who trust in themselves, in their own righteousness. In other words, in their own right standing before God. The Pharisees were religious and belonged to a sect of the Jews that went to the extreme in trying to obey the law and how to live. They were self-righteous and critical of others. Yet despite this, most of them were respected by the Jews because of their devotion to the law and to God. The Jewish people viewed them as holy. Tax collectors, on the other hand, were considered immoral men. They were known to overcharge the people when they collected taxes for the Roman government. They were looked down upon and often treated with disrespect. Now, it's plain to see the difference in each man's prayer. Christ presented this parable to those who were trusting in themselves that they were righteous, all the while despising others. The Pharisees' prayer was nothing more than a self-serving attempt to tell God how righteous he was. You see, although it's commendable to know and to keep the law of God, we must be careful not to jump from being concerned about being obedient to the belief that one has a better standing before God because of their obedience. That was the trap that the Pharisees had fallen into. They trusted in themselves that they were righteous and then treated others not like themselves with contempt. Now, look at the difference in the tax collector's prayer. Here we see the tax collector standing far off. He would not even lift up his eyes to heaven. And beating his breast, he said, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." This man obviously recognized his guilt and acknowledged that he was a sinner and was asking for God's mercy. And this man was justified. Just like we're told in Romans chapter 3, verse 28, for we hold that one is justified by faith apart from works of the law. You see, the Pharisee in this parable erred because he did not understand God's standard for righteousness. The Lord does not grade on a curve. God doesn't accept one person and not another simply because one hasn't committed as many sins as the other. No. If people want to be justified and declared righteous by keeping the law, the standard is absolute perfection. It is not enough to keep some of the commandments for justification. You must keep them all. This would be a deadly proposition for someone, for no one can keep God's law perfectly. And with that, I want to remind you, life happens. Let's enjoy it. And you see, the tax collector was justified because he recognized his unrighteousness and his inability to make himself righteous before God. He turned to God's mercy alone, and that's the only way that anyone can be justified. This parable is characteristic of the attitudes that are common in today's world, one that is full of pride and looks at themselves as being right. Or we can be like one that is humble and recognize our sins and ask for God's mercy. The question we each must ask ourselves is, which one are we? God bless. Please be sure to give this a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure that you are subscribed. Leave a comment. And yeah, I'll talk to you next week.